Welcome to the Tuesday Doctor's Call. It's October 9th, 2018. This is Andrea in Michigan. Every Tuesday we have a doctor's call where I host it, and our professional in-house is Dr. Kurt Visnick. Dr. Kurt comes to us with 30 years experience in his profession, and above and beyond that, he has been a researcher of everything latest in the field of health, and he brings us really great information every Tuesday. So welcome to the call, Dr. Kurt.
Hey, thanks, Andrea. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you being here every Tuesday and hosting this call. What a great call you and Dr. Kim did last week. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, the whole thing about ketogenic lifestyle, I think it's confusing for a lot of people, and you unconfused it.
Well, it was a good introduction.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed listening to it. I was on my way back from Wyoming, and I threw it up on the Bluetooth and listened as I drove back, and I learned quite a bit. I appreciate you and Dr. Kim sharing that information with us.
Thank you. We're happy to do it.
Well, you know, folks, and for those of you on the call, for those of you listening to the recording of the call, you know, like Andrea was saying, our goal is that we're going to bring you information that you can use. We're not going to just sit here and spew a bunch of facts at you and a bunch of science that you go, holy cow, what am I going to do with that? Because that doesn't do anybody any good. That doesn't change any lives, you know, and you know, I hear a lot of people doing that. Every week I jump on different conference calls put on by health professionals, and I listen and I go, you know, yeah, that makes them sound smart, but really, you know, Andrea, who gets anything out of things like that, right?
Well, it does help to relate it to the average person out there who just wants to share some good information with their friends.
Yeah. Well, for years now, you know, I remember when I was a child growing up, mom and dad, well, mom would give us kids, you know, a chewable multivitamin. And, you know, who knows what we were getting back then, because I'm sure, you know, they you know, bought what they thought was good. But how did you know back then, and how do you know now, right?
That's right. How do you know?
How do you know? And so multivitamins are the topic of today. We're going to talk about multivitamins and maybe give you some information so you're armed and dangerous, and you can share it with the people that you know, right? The people that you know that are taking vitamins or interested in vitamins. I think the first thing that I really want to share is, you know, what do you probably consider to be the most dangerous thing about multivitamins, Andrea? Or do you consider multivitamins dangerous at all? Let me ask that way.
The fallacy that it depends. It depends on if they're scraping the ingredients off the floor of the warehouse or not.
Right. That's part of it. But I think before we even talk about what's in the vitamin, I think I just want to share this, is that, you know, a lot of people have this idea that oh, I'm taking a multivitamin, I don't need to take anything else. I go to my brother's house in Wyoming out in Casper, and I visit him, and if you're listening, I'm not picking on you. It's just that, you know, you got a multivitamin sitting there, and it's a, you know, Equate brand or whatever, you know, it's the cheapest brand you can get at Walmart. So it's not just Walmart, it's the cheapest brand they carry. And you tell me, are you gonna get everything you need from that multivitamin?
Doubtful.
Yeah. The answer really is no. You can't, because they can't pack everything you need into a vitamin. There's no way. I mean, that vitamin would be the size of a head of lettuce. So there's no way that you can get your nutrients from that. But a lot of people believe, oh, I'm taking a multivitamin, and so they don't take anything else. That's all they take, and they won't even look at anything else. I mean, I run into them all the time. I share with them, the Sizzle products, and I say, here, you got to take a look at this, and they say, well, I already take a vitamin. And here in the United States, and I don't know, I'm guessing it's probably the same in all the westernized countries. At least half of people take a vitamin, a multivitamin, and they think they're getting everything that they need. So what do you think of that? What's your thoughts on that, Andrea?
Well, I'll tell you what I learned from someone who was actually a person who dumped Porta-Johns, cleaned out Porta-Johns. And they said, you would not believe the vitamins that we find in the bottom of Porta-Johns because they just go right through your system. The inexpensive ones from the stores, yeah. So really, they're just
so the vitamins don't. So the vitamins don't even dissolve.
Right. And there's that little test you can do with that by soaking them for so many hours and something, to see if they will dissolve. But yeah, he said,
yeah.
We just find tons of vitamins in the bottom of Porta-Johns.
Yeah. So the vitamins just go, you put them in one end and they come out the other end and haven't even dissolved.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking to the gentleman who actually formulated the most popular multivitamin. And I won't name any names because whatever, but he formulated the most popular multivitamin on the planet. And he said that when they originally came to him and said, hey, this is what we want, he put together all this great information, all these great ingredients, right? And so they had this multivitamin that really had a lot of great stuff. And then so John, the formulator, he says, so here's the cost you to make this. And the company came back and said, well, yeah, that's a great product, but we can't afford to, we're not going to pay that much. What can you do to lessen the price? And so they started cutting back on the cost of on the vitamin by cutting back on the number of ingredients, cutting back on the quantity of ingredients. And that's how they did it, is by cutting back on the ingredients and just making it so that they what do they call it? I think they call it fairy dusting, don't they, Andrea?
Right.
Where they take and they sprinkle a little bit of it on top, and they put like a little bit of dust of the ingredient on a giant barrel of product. And they say, well, we put it in there. Right. Like when this particular vitamin came out in their silver version, right? And so by now you probably know what vitamin I'm talking about, the silver. And with the silver version, they had lutein. And they said, well, we put lutein in there. Lutein's going to help with your eyes. It's going to help with this. It's going to help with that. And he said that you would have to take, the average person would have had to take 35 of their multivitamins per day just to get enough a lutein to actually make a difference.
Wow.
Right? Wow, yeah. And so if you were taking the recommended dosage of just 2 a day or 3 a day, whatever it happened to be, you weren't even getting enough to make a difference.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they mean by fairy dusting. is that you can, now the company could say, yeah, we got it in there, but they really don't have it in there, not enough that would make a difference. And that's what these companies do. I know Tom was saying that he was at a vitamin nutritional conference, and that's what they were discussing. One of the roundtable discussions was how to make more profit off your product, and that's what the so-called heads of this council were suggesting that these vitamin companies do, is just fairy dust their vitamins.
Are you there?
And
Doc,
And-
you're
and Tom-
cutting
Tom and
out
I
on
talked-
us. You're cutting
Okay.
out on us a little bit.
How about now?
Okay.
Okay. So Tom is saying that
Can't hear you.
okay. Tom is saying that he was absolutely not going to do that.
Right, here they are promoting it. We can't hear you currently, Dr. Kurt. Still can't hear you. There. Almost, but you're breaking up. Well, I'm just going to add a little content in here as Doc is trying to relocate there. Yeah, the fairy dusting. Often Tom, the head of the supplemental company that we are associated with and work with, offers the most effective products in the world. In fact, this man, because he does research all the time, and if he discovers that he can make it better, he'll just make it better. So we like that. I often hear Tom say things like, yeah, you can't wave a chicken over a pot of boiling water and turn it into chicken soup. So his whole goal is to put out very effective products. Doc, I hear a little bit of static out there. Are you back with us?
I'm back. I dialed in versus being online. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, exactly, Andrea. That's just what I was going to say, is that, Tom talks about waving that chicken over the pot of boiling water. So you said that right. That's exactly what I was going to talk about. And so that's how they cut back on the cost of the vitamins. So you just think all these people, 50% of the people that's what they're doing, and they're thinking that they're getting everything that they need.
Right.
And they're not. They're not. And so what do you think is the other way that they cut back on the cost of a vitamin?
Low quality ingredients.
Low quality ingredients. Exactly. That's the next part of it, is that then they start cutting back on what they actually put in the bottle, and they start putting cheaper ingredients in there. And so John, the formulator that made this particular vitamin, he was talking about that. And he said one of the things that you can look at is you can look at the label on the vitamins, and you can look at the ingredients. And he said for the average consumer, Andrea, do you know the answer to that?
All I heard was for the average consumer.
For the average consumer, just buying a multivitamin, what would be one of the things they'd want to look at? What would tell them this might not be a good quality vitamin?
Well, low quality, low quantity of the potential substance.
No, actually, what they look at, and this will make sense when I say it, is that if you look at the what form of vitamin E do they put in their product, and then based on that, that'll tell you if it's a good quality product.
Just by looking at the vitamin E?
Yeah, because vitamin E, if you put in natural vitamin E, it costs pennies per bottle to put vitamin E into a product.
Okay.
Pennies. So you'd think, well, who would put a man-made synthetic and vitamin E in there if the natural form is only pennies per bottle?
Right.
Not pennies per pill, pennies per bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you put in synthetic vitamin E, it's going to lower the cost to a percentage of a penny.
I see.
And so they're going to save a little bit of money on the cost of manufacture of that product. But if they sell millions of bottles and they save pennies per bottle, it adds up, and that's where they can start making some huge money by doing that. And
right.
So if you look at your multivitamin, is it going to say, "Oh, we use synthetic vitamin E"?
No, it won't say that.
No, it won't say that. Exactly. So how do you know that you're getting synthetic vitamin E? Well, you look at your product, you look at the label, and if it says DL-alpha, tocopherol, DL-alpha, tocopherol, right? What they've done is they've taken the natural form, which is D-alpha, and they've mixed it with the synthetic form, which is the L-alpha, and they call it DL-alpha, and that's a synthetic blend of vitamin E.
I see.
So what they've essentially done is they've cheapened up their product, and you know if they're willing to try and skimp and save pennies on their product, you can guess the rest of the product is probably the same way.
Right.
And so that's always the first thing that I look at. So I pulled out the bottle of Encompass 360 this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I supersized the label so I could actually read it. And we've got D-alpha tocopherol, which is the natural form of vitamin E. So right away, it tells me that Tom's not skimping on what he's putting in there.
Right. He never does.
He's not doing it to make an extra buck off of us by making the product cheaper. So I like that. So that's one of the things that you can look at. Well, the other thing about multivitamins, Andrea, is that, like I was saying earlier, you can't have a one-size-fits-all type of product. I mean, if I go to Michigan and I look at what you're getting for nutrients out of your food, and I look at what you're eating in your diet, and then you come to Fargo and you look at what I'm eating, chances are we're getting, just out of the food that we're eating, we're getting different nutrients, even though we might be eating, similarly the same food, right?
Right.
Because the different soil has different vitamin content, so you're gonna have different needs than I am.
Correct.
And on top of it, being a female, you're going to have different needs just based on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so a multivitamin, even the Encompass 360 that we have, it's a great multivitamin. When I look at multivitamins, I consider it to be one of the best. But even with it being one of the best, does it have everything that we need?
No, and that's, what most people think. All I have to do is take a multivitamin and I've got it all.
Yeah, that's exactly what they think. And they think, so 50% of people who take vitamins, that's what they do. And they take the form that we were talking about earlier, the form that has the synthetics in it, the form that's been cheapened up, the form that they made it with the idea that they're going to make some extra profit by throwing in synthetics. And then on top of it, that same company, what they do is then they take all these ingredients and they put them into a big blender, and then they coat them with something called shellac. Do you know what shellac is?
I do. I refinish furniture.
Yeah. What do you use shellac for?
It's a sealant.
It's a sealant for wood.
It blocks out water.
Yeah. But you put it on wood, right?
Correct.
So would you eat it?
No, never.
Yeah. Why not?
It's considered toxic.
Yeah, even if it's not considered toxic, I mean, if you know what it is, shellac, right? What's it made out of?
I think it's made out of insect shells.
Insect shells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's made out of insect shells. They grind them up and they make a coating just like you're putting on like varnish on your wood furniture, and they're coating these vitamins with this shellac. Sure, they're calling it food grade shellac, but according to science, only about 3% of people have enough enzymes and stomach acid to actually dissolve that. So right away there, does that explain your Jiffy John reasoning?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, because they can't dissolve it, so therefore it goes in one end, it comes out the other end, and you can still read the name of the product on the label on the pill.
Yes, that's how they knew they were vitamins.
Yeah, they could read the name that was stamped on the individual pills. Yeah, so I mean it's pretty crazy when you start thinking that's what you're buying when you buy most vitamin products, and then you start looking at the ingredients. I mean, we haven't even started talking about the ingredients. You know, we're just talking about dissolving them and things like that.
Right.
And then you start looking at the individual ingredients. You know, like different things like calcium, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They put calcium carbonate in there. Well, calcium carbonate, that's Tums. What that'll do is that'll decrease the stomach acid, and it'll make so you actually don't absorb calcium because you buffer the stomach acid, and you need stomach acid in order to dissolve calcium. And then you look at the types of magnesium. What kind of magnesium? Is it the kind that your body can use? And most of them are using a form of magnesium that's really, really cheap. And so that they can say it's in there, and it really is in there, but it's not a kind of magnesium that they can use. And then they throw iron in there. And you know, and when you see a vitamin that has iron put in it, and guess where they get most of the iron that they put into a vitamin?
Well, you've covered that before in a doctor's call, and I believe it
Yeah.
was directly from like steel.
Yeah, they'd go like out there to Michigan where they make cars, where they make steel, and they take all the filings, all the metal filings that were left over from the drills and the saws and things like that, and they superheat it, crystallize the iron, and then what they do is they grind it up into a dust, and then they throw it in your vitamin. Now you tell me, Andrea, can you absorb that?
I don't think so. And what happens to rust when it comes into contact with moisture?
Yeah, right? I mean, and this is, I mean, for those guys that are listening to the call, those of you that are listening to the recording, I mean, think about that. I mean, this is what we're unknowingly buying. This is what we're unknowingly buying. And so that's why I thought it was a great topic of today, because, you know, I mean, we do need a lot of the stuff that's in a multivitamin, because most of us, we just can't get it in our food. You know, I've got some good friends that tell me, you know, well, I'll just eat right. I don't need to take any of those products that you got. I'm just going to eat right.
Right.
According to Harvard Medical, Andrea, do you remember the study? We've talked about it before, but they said how many people actually can get their nutrition from their food? What was it, like less than 3%?
It's something like that, yes.
The other 97% of us are missing key essential nutrients in our food. 97%.
Yeah.
And so when you start, if you're a gambling person, Andrea, would you bet on the fact that you're getting your nutrients from your diet? I mean, even though you're pretty smart and you actually know some things about this, would you bet that you're getting everything you need from your diet?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, our
Right?
soils are
And
depleted.
yeah, I mean, we just don't get it. And then on top of it, we've got so many toxins and pollutants in the food and things like that. I was just doing some reading, and we'll do a call on this probably in the future. But I was looking at the fact that, you know, how do we go about helping people with cancer? And the big mistake that most people have with when they get involved with a company like Sizzle, we've got some great products that can make a super huge difference, and you see it make a difference, and somebody had cancer and now they don't have cancer. So all of a sudden, of course, you're going to go out and tell everybody that you have the cure for cancer, right?
No, I will not.
Well, you won't, but I'm just saying a lot of people will, right?
Well, yeah, they'll discuss it that way. Yes, for sure. But what's it really doing? It's supporting the body, and what's the body designed to do? Heal.
That's right. And so that's what you do is that, you know, if you take a look at multivitamins and products like Fucoidan and Spectromax and things like that, we're not treating the disease, we're treating the person. We're treating the whole person. And so what we're doing is we're giving them the nutrients that they're missing in their diet, like the multivitamin. You know, if you don't have enough selenium, for example, I mean, you give the average female enough selenium, you give them the daily requirement of selenium, chances are you'll watch the percentage of breast cancer go down wildly just from giving somebody selenium. But did you cure anything?
No, you just provided the substance their body needs.
Exactly. And then you start giving resveratrol and Fucoidan and nicotinamide riboside and alpha lipoic acid and all these different things. And all of a sudden you start seeing a huge difference. So you give the body what it needs, you support the body that way. But then on top of it, you start looking at what kinds of things can you do to reduce the workload placed on the immune system. And so when you start reducing the workload that's placed on the immune system, then the body can do what it's supposed to do. And so what I mean by that is that you start looking at, okay, what can I do to help fix the gut lining, right? 80% of your immune system is found in your gut lining. So if you have a healthier gut lining, if you have a healthy gut, chances are you're gonna be healthier. And so we start looking at that. That's one of the first things that I look at. And a lot of people don't realize this, but your body has to kind of do a triage, you know, just like the hospital does. They'll look at what's the worst things, and it'll fix, you know, you got to treat the patients that are the worst first, and that's the triage. But your body triages things and puts things on priority, and the digestive system is actually one of the top priority parts of the body. And so before your immune system will even start to fight cancer, it'll try and repair the digestive system.
Right.
And so wouldn't it make sense that we do the same thing?
Yes.
Exactly. And so we start looking at different things like that. So that's a talk. I mean, I know I threw about 5 minutes of that into this call, but that's a talk that we'll have in the future of why it's so important to have a healthy gut and help people understand that as well. But you start looking at, I'm going to talk about the Sizzle product. You know, like Andrea always says, you know, this call, we talk about things that you can do to get yourself healthier. And even if you're not involved with Sizzle, hopefully we gave you enough information today that you know how to at least look for a healthy multivitamin. But if you're looking at the Sizzle product, what I like about it is that Tom Jr. actually was the one that designed this one. And he wanted to have a multivitamin that had a lot of the good stuff in it right away. So he put you know, the minerals and the vitamins and things like that. And doses that made sense, you know. I mean, like vitamin B12, 1,000%, because right now in the United States we have a vitamin B12 deficiency epidemic going on in our country. We've got magnesium. We've got the selenium, like I talked about, 200% of magnesium. We've got molybdenum and chromium, and in the right dosages, that's going to make a difference. But then on top of it, we put some adaptogenic herbs in there. Adaptogenic herbs, what they do is if you need more help in an area, like say with the adrenal glands, will help with that. If you need less, it'll help with that. So we've got rhodiola extract in there. We've got bacopa, and we know bacopa for helping with the brain, better brain connections, but it also helps with the telomeres. We've got green tea extract. We've got green coffee bean extract. We got milk thistle extract, which helps with the liver. We've got L-glutamine, which helps out with the digestive system and cardiovascular system. We've got acetyl L-carnitine, and we've got MSM, which helps with the joints, and it increases the organic sulfur in the body. We've got grapeseed extract, which we know that's a great source of resveratrol, and then we've got turmeric, which it has L-tumerone in it, which has been shown to help with reversing some of the effects of vaccines and vaccine injury and aluminum. And then we've got and curcumin, which we talked about on the calls about Alzheimer's, and we've got fulvic acid, not folic acid. We've got folic acid in there as well, but fulvic acid. What fulvic acid is it's a ingredient that they found that it works to detoxify the body. So it pulls toxins out of the cell, and while it's pulling toxins out of the cell, it's pulling nutrients into the cell. So it's kind of considered a miracle molecule because of its ability to do both, to pull toxins out and pull nutrients in. So, Andrea, I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in a half hour here. Is there any questions that you had for me? Anything that I went over too quickly? Anything that you might have questions on?
No, it was great. And, you know, it sounds like Tom Jr. created a really exceptional multivitamin there with those extra ingredients in there that you're just not going to find in most other places, most other companies. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And I thank you so much, Dr. Kurt, for taking time out of what you're doing today to help us understand this and share that good news. For anyone who's just joined us this week, we do this call every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. You can tune in on the Zoom app. There is a phone number that can be accessed. So get back to the person who shared this with you, or where you saw it on their social media, and ask them more, and ask them to share with you, you know, some of these little products that we talk about, because they are, in my opinion, the most effective products in the world. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.